and say welcome back to the Everyone Can Contribute Cafe. This time I think we have number 50, so it's like celebrations, and we are remote everywhere, all over the world, hopefully. I'm here with Mike Leitner in Austria, in Melk, and I know that Niklas is in Tenerife, and hopefully everyone else also has a great time wherever you are joining today. Yeah, and the thing we kind of talked about or came about was Dagger or Dagger. I have no idea how to pronounce it, which tends to be a portable CI/CD kit. And it should be a first look. I know that Niklas prepared something to get us started. But yeah, the idea is to learn together and ask questions and figure out how we can use it in the future, or what its purpose is. Yeah, and to get started with, I would just hand over the voice to Niklas to maybe kick us off and give us a little introduction, what you have seen already, and yeah, just go ahead, please.
Yeah. So welcome it also. Since we have a live transaction enabled, so I can also do the whole talk in Spanish. So then we would see it in English. No, I'm joking. So my Spanish is not too fluent for that, so that I can do it. But it was mostly when I started with Dagger, because it was like a lot of topics that are coming around, and I need to understand how it was working. That also was the reason why I really want to do that, to learn something new. And for that, what we want to do today, so I have some slides prepared, so to have like a little red dot in terms of getting started and how you can use it. We do like a simple example, then we probably do also an advanced example, and then we were checking how much time is left and which questions are unanswered for the people. Yeah, for that, so I would already switch directly to my screen share. I hope not that my Mac needs to say something like, okay, cool. Yeah, I have that and that. Okay, cool. And that's a little bit, yeah, okay. So we want to talk about Dagger. So probably you know, or you're coming from the problem that, can I also do that? Sure. Cool. Cool. So currently, you know, the problem that we wanted to serve like 8 years ago. There was a new technology coming up. It was called Docker, and it helped us really to easily install packages on different operating systems. And then we had like a phase of where everyone was building smaller containers in terms of like creating small applications only for the use case that it's needed, like not the big bloated operating system with all packages for everything, so not generalized, so really specialized. But another problem that also happened then is like when you're building a lot of different containers, you get like the same like with the Lego bricks. So there are a lot of different shapes, a lot of different colors, and you need to stick them all together. And that's like a problem that some company already has. And the next problem that you probably also aware is like we all do like CI/CD, and we have our environment, and it's mostly crew running. You can easily commit, it will be done, it will be executed probably in a GitLab pipeline. But the problem is, for example, like as a developer like me, I want also to be able to execute locally for faster debugging circuits, so that the feedback loop is a lot faster instead of waiting when the pipeline is waiting. You probably all know also the XKCD commit where they say compiling. Now these days it's not compiling anymore, it's mostly waiting on the pipeline. We can say pipeline. Yeah, and for that, there was a tool. It was mostly invented by Solomon Hykes with his team members, and it's called Dagger. So give me a second. We need to first look a little bit on the pictures because I really like them. Yeah, so we have like the main purpose for Dagger is mostly that you have like an unified way to have your CI/CD pipelines locally and also like in a different environment. So it could be like you can run it on GitLab, you can run it on other platforms, or you can run it local, but you can use the same commands everywhere. So this is like the same that we had already with containers, that you can execute them everywhere, like on the same way, for Linux containers, of course, Windows containers were coming later. We have now this unified description language. And that will give us probably a cool advantage, and also like it can be the future of how we describe our pipelines. Instead of that, when we switch in from one system to another system, we need then to write the new YAML syntax. The configuration files are a little bit different, and then you need to check it every time. And this is what Dagger gives us. It gives us a short abstraction on that. Or a really meaningful abstraction. So what it really tries to answer that, it's like it reduces the drift between your local environment and the CI environment. It allows you that you don't have any configuration drift. And another advantage is like we don't need to write any more YAML. So we now starting, of course, using a new language. It's called QLang. It was invented at Google, so because they had also the problem with configuration files, so because they had a lot of difference, so they have YAML, JSONs, and so on. But they wanted to have a more tight and more dynamic language in terms of that you can easily do string interpolation and all the stuff. So, and that's the reason why Dagger also choose QLang, because it gives us a lot of flexibility, and it has some similarities from other configuration or package management systems that we had before. So before we really go into what is Q and all the technical details on that, so for that I would like really first to get started with a simple example, and then we're going step by step deeper into the topic. So the next step would be, what do I need currently? So to run Dagger at all. So you need to run it with, you can install it locally, you can run it in CI, you can also later, we have also later an example for GitLab. So I will also show that how it works and explain it. But firstly, we need to start it. So I have a Maker, of course, so I installed it with Homebrew. It's like you can easily do a brew install, and what you also need is like a Docker instance. And that's it. So then we can start with Dagger. Besides that, now coming the interesting point, as I said, we want to have like a unified language. Instead of that, we write in YAML files, and Dagger mostly consists of Q files from the QLang language. And I will show you now a simple example. So this is like a hello world. So what you can do at Dagger. So everything in Dagger starts with a plan. So this is like the object where you mostly started with. And probably you see already some similarities from programming language that you're already aware, because we have the package and we have the import. This is really consisting to Golang. So if you're aware a little bit of Golang, it looks the same. The reason behind that is because QLang is mostly based in it's like a superset of JSON. You can transform it, do a little bit more JSON syntax. Also, YAML is like a superset of JSON, so that's the reason why you can interchange them. And later, you can the real execution of each action will be done by a Golang program underneath. So that's like why Dagger is so powerful. So it gives us a big catalog of actions that we can do. And each action, just like here now, a short benefit. So first we have here the hello action. This like started, it's called core execute. That means like we want to execute something, and we will later see how it will be executed. And we have like input and outputs. This is like a typical system that you probably know from other CI/CD systems like how was it called? Okay, I don't remember. Okay, but that's it. And we first now looking into this example at all. So I've prepared already on my sheet. So okay, I will do something to show you how you get started. So we have here the same file. So we have here also the hello world queue. It's like intended, all the stuff, and now we want to execute it. So the first point that you probably need to do is first, of course, install Dagger. We will check it. So I will do a Dagger version. So we're currently running on version 05. It's currently in a really early phase, so a lot of changes will happen. But the documentation is mostly up to date, and you can easily get started. There are a lot of more examples. And afterwards, for example, now we can type Dagger, and we see we have only 2 commands really. So because help is not the real command, it's a supporting command, and versions, of course, only printing the version. So we have project and we have do. So when you now type data do that you want to do something, so you want to execute an action, we already get an error. So it says here, hey, we need to initiate the data project. Because why we need to do that is like we have the hello world queue, and it has also some import. So we need also to import all the dependencies, of course. And it currently data doesn't know this is a project. So the first command will be with the hello world. It will be start data project in it. And then we starting the project, and what's happening in the end, a new folder is here created. It's called qmod. This is like really similar to the vendor directory from Golang. So if you know it, this is like literally the same in the end. Now we have here also the package folder, and this currently it's really empty. So let's try, go back again.
Just a question. I think it's also similar to Terraform init, if I recall correctly. So when you're downloading the dependencies.
So that's the interesting part. So when you know data do, you still get an error because it says, hey, we cannot find the dependencies. Terraform init does 2 steps in the end. It's init the project and automate down the dependencies. But data, you need to do it in 2 commands. This is coming also like the same when you're using Go. For example, you would do a Go mod init, but it doesn't has any dependencies. So, and then you would download the first dependencies and would do a Go mod get, and then it would be loaded into the folder. So, and it says already, okay, do a data project update. So this is what we now do. We will do a data project update, and that's it. So now let's look again in the qmod. So, and we have here the package folder, and you currently can see here that this was empty before. So when we're looking a little bit on top, it's mostly empty, so nothing was there. Now we have Dagger.io and Universe Dagger.io. These are the packages that we had from the hello world queue, because they coming while it's Universe code, we're coming also later to the point. But when you now go into the dependency tree and check it, for example, like we're going into the universe, you see now a lot of more directories were created. For example, we look now in the, I want to have a simple one, in Alpine. Okay, Alpine. And you see also these packages are also written in Golang. So they're not written in a different language, and you have like an importing dependency system right here. But we will come later to the 4 point. So let's start now with executing our first data action. Cool. Now let's type data do again. And now we see that we have different available actions. Or one available action is called hello. So in this the description, hello world. So let's do data do hello. And now the action will be loaded. It will be executed, and that's it. So probably we didn't see anything. And this is like currently the correct way, because we did not print the full log level out there. So we can do this with data. Give me 1 second. Debug format plain. Do hello. And now it will come in really interesting. So because we have different types of action, and what data makes mostly unified than the other way, every action will be executed into a container. So this means like we have like really an isolated environment for each action step. This is what probably like a little bit different to other build systems. We don't execute it directly on the system by itself. we use Docker for that to abstracting it in the end. So you can also see here that some debug detected the build kit. It's state computing. You can see also here that the image was pulled, so the LPAM3. Then it started to be Dagger FS, and now we can here see in the info that at step 3 we have also the hello world. Now I'm wondering if I missed that. Oh, that's good. Yeah, and you see then here the executes. For example, when I now do like hello world Q, and I would go into the line and change it here to ECC, we can do Dagger do hello again. And you see it's quite fast. So it's like under 1 second in total. So it runs in 800 seconds mostly, in 800 milliseconds to execute the whole command, to execute starting a container, printing out the command in there, executing the command. And this gives us the full flexibility. So we can have different type of actions can be described in QLang instead of writing like a lot of Docker composes or like shell scripts or something like that to start different containers in different directions. We have QLang for that to orchestrate that completely or to unify it. And that's mostly the trick what's happening there is there. So I would say we should make shortly a stop and probably we ask for questions because probably I was a little bit too fast for that. And then otherwise I would go to the next example, to a more complex example. Okay. Okay. So when there are currently no questions, I would go now a little bit back and starting a short summary of the hello world. So first, it's important to know that Dagger is mostly using containers for executing all steps. So it's running every time in an isolated environment, and QLang will be used for describing the action steps in the end. And action step can become as package, so like as also like as a module way, so that you can composite each to another. So for example, like we can have an LPAM package, we have a Docker package, we can have a Terraform package, and all the stuff on that. That's quite cool. But mostly I think, okay, you would say, okay, this is like not an interesting example, like because it's like only one step. And it's like not really a complex system, not a real world system. Yeah, for that, we should probably switch to a brighter example. So for that, I prepared now the official Dagger example. So we have here locally like, let me go back. And cool. We have here currently an to-do application. It's deployed on Netlify. It's React application, so you can easily add things to it. So you can say something like add it, and you can delete it, and of course. And we would need to know, as developers now, we want to deploy it. And typically, how you would do it right now would be like, oh yeah, we need to deploy it. So we need to write our GitLab CI YAML. We need to do the following things. And then we're probably not able to do it locally. But this is now where Dagger comes in and helps us a little bit more. So we have now here our to-do app queue. Wait, I might make it open in another, so it's a little bit easier to see. Cool. Okay. So it's like a little bit more complex here right now. Why? Because we do different types of actions. Probably you can really compare Dagger also like the old Makefile. So because we have now here, we have like for our JavaScript, for our Node application, we have like a test action, we have a build action, we have like a deploy action so that we want to deploy to Netlify. And also what's now really cool is that you can also have different inputs and outputs so that you want to, when you want to share one result, for example, like when you want to build, you want also the output from the test stage so that the test stage is every time run before you build, so that you have like a dependency to it, like a relationship. And probably also you want write content out of a file. And this is like, you probably know what COK, yeah, why should I use it then like the normal Docker file or the normal approach? Here why should I not use my shell script? So because you should probably see right now here also that we have like different types of packages. So we can do like using here bash commands in terms of that you want to run something in a shell script. Here we want probably to use the Netlify. Typically now what's happening is like we would have like 10 different shell scripts that need to be maintained, and we cannot easily composite to each other. So we need to have like in a shared common folder, and with Dagger we can also import them as dependency and sharing with each other. So and it's like a really cool move. So, but let's go back to our Dagger, to our to-do app. So we have now our product manager comes to us and we need to deploy our app. So first of all, what we would probably do is like we would do the Dagger do command to see which available actions are currently there. So, and we can say, okay, what we should do now to run it. Wait. Yeah, okay, we do it that way. It's also fine. So we first would start to build it. So we would do a Dagger build. And you see that currently building the application. You see right now what's happening here is that he's running the build step and the build script, right? Did I type it correctly? Yeah. I was a little bit. What it does in the end, currently when you have Dagger locally, that's the reason why you need to have a Docker engine. You will use BuildKit to send all the information to BuildKit, and BuildKit will do the execution steps for you. So when we repeat it again, it's also mostly instant because it already cached from the BuildKit daemon. And if you remember BuildKit probably from Docker, when we started to use like multi-stage images. So that's like now the really powerful steps that coming in here is like that we can parallelize also tasks, because when, for example, when I don't need the deploy step for running the build step, they can run in parallel. And this like when we also have the same like in GitLab pipelines or yeah, I like in normal pipelines, we have like this is called, that's also a cool funny fact about Dagger. So here's like a blueprint, and the blueprint shows the arrows to which you can think about the whitebox to each action step, and each action step goes into one direction. But interesting on this, when you're coming from the graph theory, is like that you not see any cycles. So when you are here at that point in the latest at the bottom, you cannot turn back anymore. And this helps us to visualize if there are dependencies between the jobs and if they can be run in parallel or not. So that's also the reason why BuildKit and Dagger are so fast in the end, so that you can run independent jobs in parallel. So let's try to let's try to deploy it. So we do a Dagger do deploy. And you see now that also the build step was cached. It started now a new container. It started here the build the action deploy container. We can also have later look into the that's not interesting anymore. We can close this. So currently, when you have it not like in debug mode right now, you don't see so much stuff. So you see only like a little bit output what's coming out of the build. So for that, I would recommend to use the log. So currently, all the stuff is now written into the directly to our local system. And now we see that like the netlify build action was triggered, and now our app was deployed. So that's it. So it's still every time I'm on a single screen, it's like we have it here. So let's make a small change to check it. So we can also do so let's change the title. Let's do a new deployment. And it runs right now. So now, of course, because the caching happened, we changed something on the JavaScript. So also the build needs to be new run. And currently, this step is more like synchronized. So you need to have, of course, of the build before the deployment. So now the deployment container will be recreated, and we get an output out of that. Yeah, so I can take on the question from Daniel. So because, yeah, that's a good question. So why is it portable or why is it not portable? So we how does it runs in under pipelines? We will come now to the point into 2 seconds. So I think it should be as a cached in some way. Oh, come on. Mention that. Okay, let's change like another thing. Let's, let's do it that way. And deploy. Okay. But yeah, let's look into the next. I will add now new here. Some of my caching does not work correct as accept. Yeah, but let's look why it's now why I say that's no different. So I have also Dagger here in it's the same project, and I have also like set up the Dagger pipeline. So for the project, so we can look here into the step, and we have here also we deploy netlify script. So and you can see what's really cool now on that is like, yeah, we have GitLab, of course, but we use GitLab as a middleware. So we're doing like the same commands. So we do the Dagger project updates, this is like for catching dependencies. And then we say in the action we want to trigger. Currently, because it's here multi-line collapse, we're doing like the Dagger do deploy. And what we only need to have like available in the pipeline is like we need to have like the Docker image, and we have like a Docker dint, so that we can use the Docker and Docker to get access to the Docker engine that Dagger can connect to it. and then it will execute the steps in the same way. And I don't need to have like any other abstraction. So I don't need to write now new scripts. I can use the same of that. And that's like a really cool benefit. And you also see here that's what I really like is that they have colored output already, because it makes also easily to see what's happening there and what's not happening there. So yeah, I hope, and this can be literally done for every pipeline system. So I know that there are currently people working already on Jenkins files, already for Azure for DevOps and other stuff. So and we can have like a look in how complex now our Dagger CI pipeline is. It's like that. So we have here the Docker image, so that we're providing the Docker and the Docker service to it. And then we using the as a point of that we're using have also cache, that we do like the installing the Dagger. So currently it's installed via a shell script because it's currently the fastest way. And then we do like having like a retemplate of Dagger do action. And no, I cannot see it. Wait, I need to move it. And then I can say, for example, like arcs, and then I would have the build step. So then it would like do Dagger do cache from Dagger cache path, Dagger cache path do build, and it's like literally the same command that I could do here. Then. So when I do Dagger build, it's so the GitLab runs the Docker container returns the Dagger commands. Yeah. For example, the Docker images can be built, but this is now a little bit coming back to the theory. So because Docker images are nothing else like a file, like a tar archive, a file system in a tar archive, or like a zip file in the end, and you then do mostly the manipulation. So what you really need is when we now going back, I will go back into my slides because I have like I stole the picture mostly from Dagger.io. So we have here the Dagger engine, and then we need every time a Docker engine. But in real, what they're doing using under the hood is like build kit. So you don't need to have like the Docker engine. You can also use only build kit for it. So this is like a more advanced concept on top of it. So because the main benefit is why you use in Docker. Yeah, for example, when I have Docker for desktop, there's already included build kit. So that's the reason why you don't need to have like the build kit separately. But you can also run in your Kubernetes cluster. You can only run build kit only. Yeah, but it's all the way Docker DOM. So you're using container for everything. So as we saw here in the to-do app shortly, we have like here, for example, let's look into the Netlify. Let's go to the Alpine command again. So you do here, literally what you do is like you use for the, when we would use the Alpine package, it does a Docker build, it pulls the current Alpine version. This is now also what's coming here from the change from QLane, what you not have in YAML. You can use templates. So we have here the version. This can be coming outside as a parameter. So it's a string, or we can have a default value. So that's the reason why you put it in there. So then would be version at 3.5. blah, blah, blah. And then typically what it does, it uses a Docker run command and building them the image of all the dependencies that we need. When we look back into the Alpine, where it was, let me go back. You see currently the same step is like here. So we abstracted a little bit in the dev step. We have here the Alpine build, and then we said here we want to install the bash, the yarn, and the git. So when we have, we look into Dagger do, we need to have that like the debug log, so because then it's a little bit more visible. what's really happening. Let me check. Here you see here it's currently the Alpine was be pulled. It was be mostly cached. A little bit switched too fast. Here, and here you see also then the yarn step and all the stuff. I switched a little bit. Here you see that he's now really executing into the container the yarn, the bash, and the git. So then we're using this container and using it on top, further. So it's mostly Docker all the way down. So that also gives us the flexibility that we mostly can say that Dagger runs on any CI system, on any operating system. When you can run Docker or anything else, it will still work. So I hope it answered your question. Or if there's still question to that, I'm mostly free. It brings us with flexibility that we have like so the question was apart from removing the need of YAML and the usage of Q, what else does bring us data to the table? That we have like a unified language, a DSL, a domain-specific language that we can use to describe our pipelines. That, for example, when you shift from GitHub actions to GitLab YAML, you don't need to re-implement then every action and need to check, okay, how the YAML is there, how the DSL is at that topic. You use your data stack and you can port it from one CI system to another CI system. And that's like a lot of, I would see this as a big benefit, because then you don't need to write every time new scripts when you're moving to somewhere else. Or for example, it's like typically you have the problem that you have like different local scripts and different CI environment scripts, because we have some other requirements. And this like gives us the same part of that we having the same conformity mostly. And that's the real big game changer, I would say, because I see currently here that Dagger can be like the next evolution of Docker. Yeah, so now that's not true regarding which CI environments are currently involved. So there was like, when you're going here to this discussion, if you are checking for other CI systems, so I know that the CloudBeast guys already worked on the Jenkins integration. And also I saw already some involvement on the Discord for Azure DevOps, where it's currently working. So in the end, you don't need so many steps. So you need to have like a Docker, and you need to have a Docker CLI installed in the system. Then you can run all the Dagger steps, everything. So that's the simple requirements in that. Yeah, and this is like the current short overview. And now we could go deeper into different topics in terms of we can go into the queuing, or I'm open also for other questions, or we can look, okay, example, what could, for example, like when we want to wrap other tools. So because Nito already did write a proposal of wrapping Terraform, so that you use Dagger to also do like a Terraform init, to do a Terraform apply, that you have like this unified language in it. Yeah. How does Dagger pick up the actions to run? Okay. Wait, let me check.
Is there
one
running which does that?
Yeah, so currently the daemon or the execution engine is like built-it. So this is like what they're using at heart to execute all the container commands mostly. Because this is also what you use Docker under the hood to do like a Docker build. So when you do a Docker build, it will be directly sent to build-it, and build-it builds then the container, because build-it then controls also the run C and the container there. Yeah.
And the build-kit container, does it need root permissions?
I think by default it's currently run with root privileges, but you can also start build-it without root privileges. That's currently supported. But currently, I think I not saw it that they're already executing it. I think we will have it later, so that you can run it also without privileges, that you can build the CI systems. Because when we're going to Moby build-kit, it's coming out of the Moby build-kit.
Yeah, I'm not deeply familiar with build-kit. That's why I'm asking.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, probably, but you know all this mostly because when you use Docker, you see that he's checking and he's resolving, and then he's building like a dependency tree, and this like called like a Dagger currently. So to know which steps will be executed. And funny, we know the first instruction set. Everyone knows it already what build-kit uses. So build-kit uses as instruction set, for example, Docker build. So a Docker file is like a build instruction for build-kit, how to execute the steps. And there are a lot of other important, there are like another implementation, so built by other people to show the demonstration that it's portable, because it's like, because this is coming from the portable of the state mostly. So how it execute like the step.
Gitport preparing the workspace coming up also uses build-kit somehow in the background.
Yeah.
Or the pre-builds or something like that.
Yeah. So there is a good, if you this like a little bit more I have a good if you really want to go into that, I will share also the link afterwards. There's a blog post for Matt Rickard. He wrote like his own instruction set how to build a Docker image, or like how to build an image. So he has made his own file. It's called how was it called? It was called some way. Mocha file. And this is like the instruction set. So this is like his instruction set, and build-kit understands it because he's transporting the Mocha file into the LLB. So this is like the instruction set for build-kit, and then build-kit understands it. But this is like, I think, a really deep topic in terms of what you can do there. And this is like what also Dagger uses under the hood. So it builds up his actions to the internal state of build-kit, and then build-kit executing the step, and each step will be executed in a container. Or it's executed in a container, but the file system operations are simple container operations. Because the file system operations on the container images are nothing like putting the tasks together and changing the difference, the order.
And thinking of like building and file systems, does it need a special file system like overlay 2 or something else like known from Docker?
No. That's no.
Sorry if I'm like drifting, but
yeah, we need to check also the other questions, but I can explain it shortly. So because let me, do I have an Docker image? Give me a second. Give me a second. I don't see. To open is the bad part. But you have here like the hashes, and each hash is like a simple tar file. So you can, when you do Docker export, it's like multiple layers are here. Because we have now here the base layer, it's only one link, and they all connected to each other. That's where the overlay comes into the game. It shows like a merged view of a file system. And this is what BuildKit uses Underwood. It goes into the tar file and changes files, or adding like a new tar file, and then you would have the multiple layers. That's because it's like every step or every execution in BuildKit is also generating a new layer in the end. It's like also the same with the Docker files. So if you have a run command, it will generate a new layer. If you have an exit command, you will generate a new layer. And just like the similar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Little,
and that's also the reason why it's so
technology.
Yeah.
Okay, coming from BuildKit back to Dagger. So the BuildKit daemon is being run and it picks up the action somehow.
Yeah, it gets sent the action. So when we look in our example, we have here, this is the important part. This is the client. And what it does, we have here this like in QLang now the read file system. It says secretly send the current directory. So that's the reason why we have action read. So, and we say we don't want to read the readme, the build file, and the Q file, and this will be sent then as a tar archive to BuildKit. And then BuildKit is doing the execution steps and next under the hood. So what's coming in the actions mostly. And then you can also say, okay, I want to write the content to a local file system also back, because this is also how Docker is working. So when you are building a Docker image, everything from your local file system will be packaged as a zip file and will be sent to the Docker daemon, and then he will executing all the steps.
Okay, and the communication is a Unix socket or a TCP port or whatever.
It's typically Unix socket. It can be TCP. It can be like, you can put it in the advanced step like you want to. By default, it's easier. He's using here like the Docker socket in the end. He's using the default TCP connection, but you can overwrite it. So for example, I had another example. So you can do.
Just to like clarify my misunderstanding, I need BuildKit as a daemon being run to use Dagger.
Yeah, to execute in the Dagger steps, yeah.
Okay.
There, we currently don't have like, and the reason why you should not worry about like, if you want to run BuildKit, the simpler approach is to run Docker, because it's included and then you don't need to take up how you install BuildKit and all the stuff. That's the reason why they're saying use Docker for it, because it's a little bit simpler. So because when we going back to our example,
could I use containerd as an alternative?
No, BuildKit. No,
okay.
Containerd is like the container execution engine.
Okay, because I'm not using Docker on my MacBook. I'm using Rancher Desktop, and I was wondering which portions I could reuse for Dagger.
Funnily, so as you see, what he did is when I did, I don't know, Dagger project. Let's make an example. I think I will delete them my whole cache, but it's fine. So to deploy. Right, doesn't he shift?
There's an interesting question in the chat. How new is Dagger? Would you consider it production pipeline ready? I think it's pretty new. So it left its private beta 2 weeks ago, and it's in rapid development, I would say. So I would wait and test it and try it out, give feedback to the developers, open issues, pull requests, and so on. But I my personal opinion, it's not. It doesn't look like it has reached the general availability release yet. But who knows what the future will bring?
Yeah. So here, what you can see. So I removed before I did the Dagger do deploy step. I removed the Dagger build container. So, and Dagger also started this container again so that you can execute the steps. So you don't need to have like, you need to have, it could be also working with container D only. So because you would send them it works. So I'm for sure if you register for desktop, I don't have it. So that's the reason why I cannot.
So Nicholas, the Dagger CLI needs the Docker socket. So it's directly talking to the Docker socket. So if you go with Ranger, you have to enable Moby.
Docker D.
Docker D support, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, wait. That's I can also revert that. So because there's like an example script.
Yeah, but
so at least I had issues last Saturday with just container D and Ranger desktop.
You can start like the build container on your own. It needs to be currently run, I think, in privileged. And then you need to connect to it. And this can be done by then you can set up like the build host.
Nico mentioned that I'm using Ranger Desktop with Docker D at the moment because of the socket.
Then you are fine.
Because I needed it for Docker Compose for certain things, which might be broken with different tools. But yeah, I just went the way of trying Ranger Desktop and giving it a chance on my MacBook.
Yeah. The main trick, also not the main trick. So what you need to specify when you want to have like running build kit, it doesn't need to be run on your local machine. You can specify the build kit host. This can be a container. It can be like a TCP connection. It can be a socket. It can be everything mostly. And this is how it connects. It connects by default to a socket, but you can also override it. And there's also already some guidance on that. If I check that correctly. So that would allow you.
It's hidden in the source code already.
Yeah, and you can also run
it.
Customizing, I think, here. You see? So you can say to setting up, or you can have it also like to a remote host. Here it's the instruction how it should work on a container. Yeah. So there are different ways to execute that. But for simplicity reason, I would recommend to use the Docker. Then you need to debug that. So because it's like mostly.
And there's a potential problem if you're using it in CI with Docker and Docker.
Yeah, for Docker and Docker, you need to have privileged access.
Yeah, and the container breakout and things like that.
Yeah, but the container breakout is then not so easy possible.
Yeah, but it's a scenario one should keep in mind.
Yeah, but luckily our CI providers are keeping care of it. So that's also the reason why you can have like in when you're looking into the official example to run it in GitLab. We're using here the Docker dint. It started still at privilege. We specifying here the Docker host, and then we starting to connect into it. Starting to build it.
The link documentation says it might cause troubles with container escaping, as far as I remember. So like https docs.gitlab.com. I think it's not as secure as it should be right now in the documentation.
Yeah,
but I didn't try it yet. So if you're trying to do that, potentially do it on, for example, a GitLab runner, which is just being used for running the Dagger action now.
Yeah, so it works out of the box. So I didn't change anything here. So I used the official GitLab runners, and we can also run a new pipeline. so that I can prove it. No, I cannot. Wait, I need to switch my account. That's the reason why I not see it. Let's run a new pipeline. So we're writing also our change. I hope it's not deployed. Okay, I need to check why native file caching is working differently than my expectation. Okay, that's not interesting. So you see it's running here on the GitLab share instance. It's will now pulling the Docker image. Then it will probably starting to start the dint.
Yeah, I was more thinking of self-hosted or self-managed instances.
Yeah, they could probably have like a shared build kit daemon with, and then you're exposing with TCP, securing with TLS, and then you're also ready to go.
Yeah, and you should never do the like insecure verify true thing.
Yeah, so run with TLS protection also. Yeah. If you need to expose it over TCP, secure it because it could give privileged access, and you don't want to have like man in the middle.
Yeah, and I think for like, if you want to play around in a production system, like have a dedicated runner and virtual machine somewhere and just play around and see how it performs or what it does. Yeah, just to avoid any potential things which might harm your production system, as long as we have not the in-depth knowledge about the tool yet.
Yeah. So, and probably the interesting question, how you can also give your feedback and involve into the community. Of course, you can use GitHub for that. Check the people out also on Twitter. And they have also like a Discord, an official Discord. So you can also connect to them and ask them questions. They are really eager to help. There's currently a lot of work ongoing. So a lot of changes are currently happening. And they're really happy about contributions. And also really about, so sometimes the documentation is like not so intuitive, but they're also really open to have like other changes. Yeah. And that's it mostly about Dagger. So it's, I currently really like it in summary. So it's still a little bit complex to get familiar with the queuing. So that's like for me a steep learning curve still. But I think it can be like the next step of running our CI/CD systems and doing like day one operations on that. And having like also all the developers, all people on the same speaking language, so you're not required to learn bash scripting, and you can easily share it because you have packages, you have you can reuse it from the community. You have like a big catalog. So because when we are looking, so how much stuff is currently available, we have a lot of stuff already that can do. So we have Netlify, we have AWS, so we have Bash, we can do Git actions, we can do Yarn, we can do PowerShell. Terraform is coming up, a lot of other tools. And I think in future, there will be like a big ecosystem of actions that you can share. It's like the same idea like from Circus CI with the orgs. And that's like a really cool approach, so that you don't need to reinvent the wheel every time when you want to have like a small dedication or a small script and gets you started faster. And you can use it not only in CI, you can also use all the same things on your local machine. So that makes also easier for us to debug pipelines. Instead of that you need to run a pipeline again, it takes 10 minutes until the CI runner catches up and all the stuff you execute locally, check if it works, you push your changes back, and then you get the result. And that's like the fast feedback on that. And that's what I really like to enjoy here. Yeah.
Did you see, when researching a little bit, something like roadmaps or things to come in the future? Maybe in the issues or
let me check now.
Probably like I think there are many resources now publicly available. One can check out. I was just curious if you have seen anything.
Yeah, so I'm mostly what I do to being catched up with all the changes that are happening. What I can recommend is I go back to the distro and then I read it mostly, what's currently happening. And so currently people already have like new books, new tools. So I think for getting started, this could be quite interesting. What's currently the problems? So currently it's not so intuitive with working with Q because there's no like big integration. So there's a small VS Code extension, but there's not like a LSP. But currently I'm also not sure about the roadmap. I know that they're repackaging the packages. So that means like that they have, for example, Terraform, other small things like probably also like for GitLab. It could be also that you use the GitLab API through a Q package. And configure like the pipeline and like having like then events triggered and all this stuff, but this like a little bit more topic. They're mostly open for discussions, and I think the next interesting thing where people can involve, of course, is also like what next dev environment should be integrated. So because a lot of people currently working on it, and when you're probably not sure if your CI system is in there, I think that's also a good hint if something is coming up on that. I think we are now striving for 0.3. I think that check if they have milestones. Yeah, cool. Yeah, this is the only thing I know. They have a milestone, and then you can check, okay, which tickets are closed, which are mostly completed.
Yeah, from the release cadence, one can guess when the 1.0 version or something comes out.
Yeah, so
it's also worthwhile to mention that there was a seed funding round for the company. So they might level up with engineers and resources being available. So I would recommend, so the Dagger Twitter account is Dagger_IO to follow them.
Yeah.
And also retweet, like, and ask questions or things like that in public. And also engage on the issues and discussion forums just to get an idea. Yeah, and when you see something, contribute, improve, help improve, probably the documentation with the experience, but also look into things like improving certain things or maybe adding a feature request for, I don't know, I haven't seen it, linting the QLang syntax, for example, because I will probably struggle a lot with the new language to learn after hating YAML for a while and now having adopted it. So like everything which makes it more convenient in terms of troubleshooting. I don't know how QLang behaves if you're missing out a bracket. No idea what the error would be.
Yeah. Okay, for that I can shortly give a short. So we have also like a formatting tool in QLang. So like Go format, it's also Q format, and you can format directly files. So linting is currently not so available, but you can also do like things like QEval, and then you would see how the whole file would pure look in Q. But this is like, I think this is when we should dive this into a next session dedicated only to QLang and all its different kinds, because this is like an own language, programming language that you need to understand. Because here you then see also that now which version is in there and all the stuff, and when you can easily use Q format and it will formatting the file if it's not consistent to the Q file versus currently consistent. So yeah, but one last thing
I would run in CI/CD before doing anything with Dagger then.
Yeah, but then you need to recommit. Okay, that's like a little bit more complex.
Yeah, or maybe have a Git hook, a pre-commit hook locally in my dev environment, for example, which does the linting or the syntax checking or something like that. So before I even commit things, I can verify that automatically.
Yeah,
and don't need to remember the exact command, but instead have it executed automatically.
Yeah, and also what's sometimes happening, so when you are being a little bit late on the Europe time, so that the developers are on the stage and developing live in distro, so that you can see and probably also watch what they're doing. So that's also really cool if you want to. So last time I was a little bit late on and I misclicked, and I was then in a stage with Solomon, Hikes, and some other developers discussing shortly about this topic. So it's like a cool involvement. Yeah, and that's it for the start. So if you have questions, feel reach out. So the most interesting thing could be probably the project. You can find the whole project, the example project that we did now with the Netlify app is also on GitLab. It has the pipeline, it has everything. I described also a little bit what you need to do to deploy it. And feel free to do merge requests and help us to build also more examples, and we could probably make like in the next 6 months a new revisit on Dagger, what's involved, what changed, and then we probably also a lot of more deeper in there, because it's like really in an early phase right now. But it's quite cool to be like being an early adopter here again. Yeah, and that's
really cool. Thanks for that. I will collect the resources you shared today in a blog post this week, and also share the recording. Is there anything else you want to mention or highlight?
No. Yeah, the only thing what I want to mention or what to highlight, but this is like what we need to check. I want like to improve the GitLab CI template a little bit, so that we have an official one that you can easily start also from GitLab directly to use Dagger. So, but it's like another topic, because it's like currently missing, I think. And to help people more getting easier started with Dagger also on GitLab.com. And I know that they already also working on Gitpod, that people are trying also Dagger using Gitpod to use Dagger in Gitpod, and then they're using it in GitLab, for example. So then you don't have it.
You can spin up a Gitpod workspace and run Dagger inside the Gitpod pod, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of brain fuck now. No, it's Inception, pod Inception.
Yeah. But it's like the mystery that you can solve tonight when you go to bed.
Yeah, when I'm traveling back to my place. I'm not driving and programming. That's not something one should do. I think I know that some people are using Docker Compose inside Gitpod for like demo purposes or development. Would be interesting to see how this can be like replaced or complemented with Dagger.
Yeah, I think there will also be compose actions will coming up, so a lot of more wrappers will come in future. So I saw what I really found interesting. So there was already a project that do AWS Lambda with Dagger already. So the people were working on that, so that you don't need to use the serverless stacks, that you use directly Dagger for deploying Lambda actions and all the stuff. So you're zipping files and all the stuff.
I think we looked at HashiCorp Waypoint 1.5 years ago, which is kind of continuous delivery and also deployments. Do you have a feeling how it like compares to Dagger, or like what are the differences?
I need to rethink about how Waypoint was working. So when you going into the pod, so you trigger the deployment, but doesn't it does the reconciliation all the time? Is it not something like that? Like an orchestrator Waypoint, when I remember correctly? Because it's so long ago.
Yeah, I think it was more like orchestrating the deployment and doing all the cloud steps, but it didn't involve any container builds. But it had a similar like idea on you're finishing your CI steps and then you do continuous delivery with Waypoint. But to be honest, I haven't been following closely what's the current state of the project.
Yeah, I think the main benefits, in short, I think like what you can see here, that we can have like different, so you don't need to write the deploy sh script, then it will be looking different. You have a simple queue file that you have a queue file for it. Then you have like the catalog that then it will be grow over time, probably also different community packages. So they have also like different sources already. So Universe is for official one. So there's also a community space. It's called Europa. There's also an alpha version, and you can have like your own modules if you want to. But I mean, the main benefit is really that you can do it locally on your machine. You don't need to run a whole CI system to test all the changes that you do on your CI pipelines. And to have like faster feedback instead of waiting in all the machines. So that's, I think, where it currently breaks probably, so with really large workloads. So for example, like you need to do number crunching or really compiling, and it takes only CPU. Maybe it won't make it faster in the end in Docker, because you need to have hardware resource to fix it. But if you have multiple steps and you need to orchestrate, that could be like a good step that you go in parallelization, because it's like, yeah, I see, okay, this step is independent from that. So you see it here directly. So these both steps can be run in parallel. Okay, and then the next step and so on. This is like when the same we have like with GitLab with the pipeline needs, it's the same. It's nothing different.
Yeah, for the modules and reusability, I'm a little worried around when something is incompatible and you're using the same actions or modules or whatever it is called then. So like quality assurance in extensions and modules. This will become a thing in the future, and I'm sure the developers already thought about it. But if not, I will create an issue, or you might be creating an issue, just to like think about scenarios when you implement something and it doesn't work and it overlaps, and how you actually debug that, because I kind of see Qlang more as a programming language rather than a markup language. So this could become a little tricky, and the learning curve might not be as good as it's intended to be. But we will see about this. Like, you need to start somewhere, and then you can like iterate and improve the process.
Yeah, it's like an early project. It's like not that it's like now 1.0 ready, and I would see like we need to wait for first general release, general availability. I would see at least a year, probably. I would wonder when it's that earlier.
And I think it's a good idea. Now we have April, revisited like maybe in October or November or something, just, or when we say there is an update and we decided short term, and have a look.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. If there are no further questions, I would like to say thanks a lot for preparing for today. I didn't ask for it, but I really appreciate it. Yeah, and I hope everyone stays safe, and we might be meeting in the future. Next month, topic is still open. It will be in the week before KubeCon. I don't know what we will do, but we will decide shortly. The event is already scheduled in the meetup group, so you can plan your calendar if you want to. Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe KubeCon Cloud Native, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, then. Thanks for joining today, and see you next month. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.